Dude, the star of a reality show is gonna run the country. Half the people don't even want this fucking thing. He's so obviously a dope. He's so dumb.
Bill Burr just obliterated Trump on live TV, and let's just say Trump is losing his mind over it. He's always had a meltdown whenever comedians roast him. But this time, it's worse, because Burr went after everything. His hair, his tiny hands, his McDonald's obsession, and even his dwindling fan base.
When Trump went to McDonald's, wasn't that amazing? That's the only time I've ever seen that guy truly happy.
This is the kind of humiliation that sticks. And knowing Trump, he's probably already rage tweeting in all caps.
Two of the most polar opposite people ever. It's like, all right, let's see. What does the orange bigot have to say? How about the real estate agent that speaks through her nose?
And it all started with Trump's hair, the greatest unsolved mystery of modern times. People have debated its existence for years. Was it a wig, a bad transplant, or just a scientific anomaly defying all laws of gravity? But when Bill Burr took aim, he didn't just make a joke. He dismantled the entire illusion.
This is big boy stuff, but don't come back and start crying.
He compared it to something so structurally weak, it wouldn't survive a gust of wind. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. That hair moves like it's dodging invisible attacks, yet somehow never fully collapses, as if it's holding on for dear life. He went even further, describing it as something straight out of a taxidermy experiment gone horribly wrong. And if you've ever seen Trump's hair react to a strong breeze, you know exactly what he meant.
That's like those Trump guys. They're always going like, you snowflakes, F your feelings and all of that. And then you make fun of Trump. They're like, oh my God, it's so disrespectful. It's like you're saying F Joe Biden. It's like you can't have it both ways.
The best part was how effortlessly Burr delivered it, making it clear that this wasn't even a deep-cut insult. Just a simple observation the rest of the world had been too polite to say out loud. But the jokes about his hair were just the beginning. Burr took the roast to the next level by exposing exactly what it symbolized: Trump's obsession with appearance, his desperate attempts to project an image of power, and his complete refusal to admit that anything about him might not be as perfect as he claims. The hair was just a metaphor for everything else.
Okay, the guy walked in the arena, everybody cheered, she gave him the finger, nobody got arrested. That's why this country's great.
It was like a brand, loud, exaggerated, and absolutely detached from reality. And that was the real joke. Trump would rather let people believe his hair is a bizarre, gravity-defying natural phenomenon than admit to using bad implants or a cheap toupee.
My favorite thing was when Trump was going, thank you. Thank you. You know what it reminded me of? When OJ got acquitted. Remember that? When he's going, thank you. Like, I can't believe I'm getting off of this. Thank you.
And then Burr took things even further by tearing apart Trump's so-called business empire. The man has spent his entire career branding himself as a genius entrepreneur, the ultimate deal maker, a self-made billionaire who built an empire from the ground up. But Burr shredded that fairy tale without hesitation, exposing Trump's long history of spectacular financial disasters.
How come they're not going after the banks? I can just walk into a bank and be like, my house is worth $5 trillion. Can I have a $30 million loan? Okay.
My only pushback on that story is you said your wife gave him the finger. It was more than one, I think I saw, right?
It was dual.
He pointed out how Trump managed to go bankrupt running casinos, a business literally designed to take other people's money, which is like losing a rigged game that was set up for him to win. He laid out the endless list of failed ventures, from overpriced steaks that nobody wanted to cheap vodka that no one drank to a fraudulent university that ended in lawsuits and settlements. Every business Trump touched either collapsed under debt or ended up in court, and Burr summed up the entire legacy as nothing more than a series of overhyped failures disguised as success.
These are the two worst choices ever. Trump, if he wasn't so fucking racist, if he wasn't so racist, I can deal with the pussy grabbing. That's not in my world. I'm selfish, like every other voter.
And that was the real punchline. Trump's entire career has been about selling an image, not actually building anything. He never needed a successful product, only the illusion of one. His strategy was always the same. Slap his name on something, hype it up, promise it was the best thing anyone had ever seen, and when it eventually flopped, shift the blame onto someone else.
He would actually scare me a little less because he's so obviously a dope. He's so dumb, I don't think he could get away with anything. You know what he reminds me of? You ever watch Law and Order and they make an arrest in like within the first 15 minutes? You know, and they're trying to get you to think, we got him. You're just looking at your watch. You're like, dude, there's no way this guy did this shit.
It was never about running a successful business, just running a profitable scam. And that's exactly what Burr exposed. And then came Trump's tiny hands, the joke that refuses to die, no matter how much he tries to shake it off. It started in 1988 as a passing insult, but somehow, over the years, it grew into one of his biggest insecurities. And when Bill Burr took his turn at it, he didn't just make fun of it, he turned it into a full-scale demolition job.
I don't understand why everybody's so upset.
Yeah.
You know, like, what's gonna happen to you? If you liked Obama, did he call you at all in the last 8 years? Did he ever put a sandwich on your table? You do that.
The sheer absurdity of it was enough to make the crowd lose their minds because, at the end of the day, there's something hilariously tragic about a former president being haunted by a decades-old insult about the size of his fingers. And the reason this hit so hard? Trump's obsession with proving otherwise. The whole thing dates back to a Vanity Fair article in 1988, where journalist Graydon Carter casually called Trump a short-fingered vulgarian. That one phrase sent Trump into an absolute meltdown.
Is gonna run the country. The guy who decided if Brett Michaels or Cyndi Lauper would make a better CEO for a company that doesn't exist.
So when Bill Burr brought this up again, it was a full-blown psychological warfare move. He wasn't just mocking Trump, he was dragging back decades of insecurity, forcing him to relive it all over again. Because if there's one thing Trump cannot stand, it's being laughed at. Trump had just been publicly humiliated on live TV, and for a brief moment, there was a sliver of hope that he might let it go, but that was never gonna happen. Because the second those jokes started circulating online, his thumbs went into overdrive.
Dude, he is the greatest shit talker of all time. He sat at like $100,000 breakfast.
He has never been the type to sit back and let things slide, and this was no exception. By 12:47 a.m., the meltdown had officially begun. The first tweet was short, bitter, and completely predictable. A weak attempt to dismiss Bill Burr as irrelevant. But instead of shutting down the conversation, all it did was throw gasoline on the fire.
I'll be honest with you, I can't believe Trump didn't win this thing like 4 months ago. You know? I know that's weird for younger people to hear, but like when I was a kid, if you were running for president and you got shot and you didn't die, that was the end of the election.
This wasn't new territory for Trump. He has always sold himself as a tough, unshakable leader, but his history with comedy tells a very different story. Back in 2011, he sat stone-faced at the White House Correspondents' Dinner while Barack Obama ridiculed him in front of a room full of elites. He never forgot it. Some say that moment was one of the driving forces behind his 2016 presidential run.
There was nothing you could say, right? Everybody would just be like, this guy's the man. He is the king.
Now, years later, history was repeating itself. Another comedian had taken aim, and just like before, Trump was completely unraveling in public. The irony was painful, but things were about to spiral even further, because whenever Trump lashes out, his most loyal supporters rush in to defend him. And this time, they walk straight into an internet bloodbath.
People get like annoyed and they go into your Twitter account from 10 years ago. And they're like, oh, you said this about, you know, whatever, Saved by the Bell in 1988. I want an apology. It's like, all right, well, get in a time machine.
The moment his first tweet went live, his diehard fan base sprang into action. Their responses were immediate and predictable. They tried to discredit Bill Burr, calling him unfunny, washed up, and desperate for attention. They claimed it was just another example of Hollywood attacking Trump, another attempt to stay relevant by mocking him. But there was just one major problem. They were completely outnumbered.
Stupid the way that they handled Trump.
What do you mean?
You should shut up. He's a narcissist. Neutral energy.
Burr's fans wasted no time firing back, and they were merciless. They pointed out the obvious. Trump has built an entire identity around being tough, yet one comedian with a microphone had him spiraling before midnight. Others highlighted the ridiculous pattern of Trump's past. Every time he's roasted, he reacts exactly the way his critics predict, proving them right in real time.
It's like, oh my God, was that empathy? Of the people, Donald?
And the best part? Bill Burr didn't even need to do anything. He had already won. Because by the time the sun came up, Trump hadn't just lost to a comedian. He had lost to his own inability to take a joke. If you enjoyed watching this meltdown unfold, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Because let's be honest, there's always a next one.